Hey everyone, it's Al Spader back with some more videos on the rules and how to play Sentience 2D20. My big thing that I want to talk about this time around are our programs, our values, and our momentum. So last video I showed you how the basic task resolution happens. You figure out your protocol and your emotions, add them together, and try to roll at or below that number. Pretty straightforward. 20s are complications, ones are critical successes. Now, there are ways to make critical successes happen even more, and that has to do with your programs. So in the last video, we talked about Dorandal trying to get across the sandy dune, and it was a moving test, and he used fear, so that gave you a target number of 12. Well, if any of your programs that your robot has installed can come into play for the task that you are trying to resolve, then you could potentially expand your critical success range up to whatever the number is on your protocol. So, for example, I, as a director, would have said, you know what? I think that your tap dancing program that you've been practicing and using might make you a little bit more light-footed on the sand on the dune. So therefore, your critical range is no longer just if you roll a 1, but now it's all the way up to this moving score, which is what you did for the test. So a 1, 2, 3, or 4 would count as 2 successes. So finding programs, these are kind of like specializations for you that expand your critical range. Okay, so let's say that happened. Let's say I rolled a 2 and an 8 on that initial task. That would have been 1 success from the 8, right? Because that was beneath a 12. And then 2 successes for rolling the 2 because it was at or below my moving score. So you'd get 3 successes total. Well, if it was a difficulty 1 task, you got 2 more successes than you needed. So you're going to generate 2 momentum. Now, momentum can be used in many different ways in the game. I'm only going to show you how it impacts your dice pool and such. So let's say that you cause that little sand slide to start happening for your friends behind you, and maybe you even get caught up in it as well. The difficulty might increase on going depending on what's going on in the environment around you. So if there's a sand slide, let's say that might make it more difficult to travel across the expanse of the dune. Well, perhaps that's going to increase the difficulty by 2. So let's say that now we have a difficulty 3 task to get across the pool or the dune. It's going to be very challenging to get 3 successes on 2 dice. It can happen, as I showed you how it could lay out. But it's going to be challenging. So what you could do is what we call purchasing dice. And there's 2 ways you can purchase dice and add them to your pool. The first is by spending momentum. The second is by giving the director threat. So the way that this works is the first dice that you add to your pool only costs 1, either momentum or threat. The second dice that you add to your pool adds 2 to either momentum or threat or split. So you can see I only have 1 momentum in my pool. But if I need this 4th dice, I can still spend that and add threat to the game master. Threat is basically the way the game master uses, just like you would with momentum. Now, if I did want to roll a 5th die, that's going to cost me, or add a 3rd die to the pool, that is going to cost us 3 more threat. So by adding 4 to threat and spending your momentum, you now have 5 dice to roll. Now remember, every success you roll beyond the difficulty is going to generate momentum. So if you roll 5 dice, we're looking for target number 14. And remember, we did say that our tap dancing comes into play. So I'm looking for 14s or lower. So that's a 15, so that's not a success. The 10 is a success. The 11 is a success. The 14 is a success. The 2 is 2 successes. So that's going to be 5 successes total on a difficulty 3 task. So you're going to generate 2 momentum back into the pool. And that goes around. Every single character, when they're rolling dice, gets the opportunity to spend momentum or threat along the way. Now, let's say you get into some very challenging tasks that are like nearly impossible to do. We do have this thing called values, and every character has 4 values that they start with. So looking here, the values are basically who we are as a person. And there are things that you can do with these values that can push your robot to do pretty phenomenal things. And essentially, if you find that, like, even if you were rolling 5 dice, you might not be able to succeed at this task, you can always sacrifice a value. Now, what does that mean? That means that you are letting your AI self take over. And when you let your AI self take over, one of your values disappears. You kind of start reverting back to being an AI. And the value that disappears is whichever one you think least applies to the situation that you're doing. So let's say we are scurrying across that sand dune, but now it's difficulty 6 to get across because it's raining and it's windy and the sand slide is happening, and all those things have made the difficulty climb. I can say, let's see, there must be order in our new lives. There's no damage I can't repair. The awakening caused chaos and confusion. So chaos and confusion is definitely happening here. If I get damaged, I can repair it. There must be order in our new lives. I don't know. We're not really talking about cleanliness or order or neatness. So that I would probably cross out this 3rd value right here. And what that allows me to do is several different things. Like you can take extra turns, you can re-roll dice pools. But the big one that it allows you to do is to take 1 dice from your pool and set it to a 1. So what does that mean? That means by sacrificing one of these values, you're automatically going to get 2 successes on this task. Then let's say you bought 3 dice total. Let's say you bought 2 dice total for a total of 4. I set 1 to the 1, and then I roll my other 3. And you'll see that you're much more likely to achieve those higher goals, or those higher difficulties, I should say, when you do that. So value sacrifices, they are very narrative. And there are ways to get your values back in the game as well. But you can see that letting your AI self take over does improve your odds of being successful at more challenging things. It just also, you start to lose a little bit of your humanity. So, so that's it. That's our programs, our values, and momentum and threat. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. And I'll see if there's any more of these little videos that I can put out with some basic rules. Maybe I'll do something with character creation at some point as well. Take care.